Try this one, good soul. Today, the fall begins. There is a repeating pattern. Fall is understood for the season of what we have termed as fall, because leaves fall from trees during this season, typically. They change colors and then they fall. And it's also a pattern, as I see that by wearing the white shirt, I am again repeating the pattern for all of you. Of the Jewish calendar, 21st night of September, 1823. 201 years ago, according to the story told by Joseph Smith in 1838. Patterns. You're supposed to be looking for patterns in your scriptures, Mormons. The pattern of the warning of the fall of the great and abominable church that Mormons are being held bondage in the latter days. And that Mormons must listen to the prophet, who is the Christ for Mormons, and not only spiritually believe, but physically not just leave the church by not going to church this morning, or today, if you have it after the 1 o'clock hour. I don't think there's many who do the 3 o'clock hour. I think the church had kind of done away with that, because they learned that during Super Bowl Sundays, nobody showed up for church. But also to believe their Christ, who's a human baby raised up as a man, just like them, and follow him to Zion, leaving the state of Utah, where the great and abominable church is to be left to fall, so that we build Zion, so that when the fall occurs, we have Zion well underway being built, and those around the world will come to Zion to join us. And it's not just for Mormons. The call is for those who did spiritually leave and are not going to church today, as there's upwards of 15 million of you around the world. But it's not enough to just stop attending church. It's not enough to designate yourself as no longer Mormon, because there's a dangerous threat that Joseph Smith follows the Jewish pattern of the warning voice to all of you. And that's why you need to leave. Pharaoh has been saying no in a repeated pattern. Pharaoh does not want to let you go. Pharaoh is intentionally holding you hostage, demanding you pay him, as he's setting you up for the day that shall burn as an oven. Because they that come shall burn you, having been paid the Judas price of the money you've been giving to the church. And it is sad that there are Mormons who not only don't believe but are actively committing crimes against me to protect the church, to have this happen. And I have had Mormons comment that they are okay with sacrificing their lives for this criminal, terrorist, abominable organization. They lust after bloodshed. They lust for the bloodbath in the coming days. 43 now. It is extremely disturbing that Mormons enjoy wickedness and sin, and thus the pattern that Mormons are past feeling that they are ripe for destruction, utter destruction, as is the pattern warning voice to Mormons. Joseph Smith specifically repeated the pattern of his second vision with that of the second vision of Lehi, which is a pattern of the book of Revelation, which is a pattern of the book of Matthew, which is a pattern of Isaiah, which is from the law of Deuteronomy. All Jews must repeat the pattern. This is their method of instruction, learning by repetition of patterns. So not only did they teach the scriptures by having the students copy letter by letter exactly as the original document, creating a copy, a Deuteronomy, shall we say, a repetition of the law, thus the repetition of the law by name, Deuteronomy. It's an exact copy of the law. And the law says that the coming of the Jewish Christ is what Jews are supposed to be looking for. He's a man like Moses. The pattern of the prophecy is the pattern in the Exodus story of the fulfillment by the Christ. And in 2020, I did that. That's why I'm able to tell you things if you understand what it is I'm talking about, because of studying your scriptures. When I say Pharaoh said no, you're supposed to go, oh, Pharaoh says no. Oh, right. That movie. That's not based on the book. Okay? Repeating patterns, Mormons. And so here I am fulfilling the pattern that Joseph Smith set for Mormons to watch for. The white shirt, as we are nearing the Day of Atonement. Remember? Oh, you don't remember. This is your very first video? Bastard YouTube. They know they are wicked, and they don't care. They are purposely silencing my voice. What happened last week was a fluke. It was an error on the part of the Mormon. And I'm surprised that the church didn't have him exterminated and replaced with somebody else. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. They've done it before, because the church likewise commits a criminal pattern of behavior. a pattern of practice, as it is referred to in legal terminology. They repeat that pattern over and over and over and over, and our government won't do anything to them about it. Despite all of the warning voices I've given to my government about the coming threat that will utterly destroy America. And so I can only conclude that our government is in on it. They want to destroy America and restore a monarchy after the chaos of bloodbath and cannibalism. Did the video. Over 8,000 repeated pattern videos for you. This is why my videos contain repeated picture patterns, because I'm trying to emphasize something very important for you to learn. And so I've added something else to a repeated pattern that I made specifically last night for this morning's video. You'll know it when you see it, or you've already seen it because it was at the beginning of the video. Yep, repeated pattern. This one was clever. I'm impressed with this one. And you will know it when you see it. Yep. And it's sad that there are those who do not study their scriptures and do not understand this repeating pattern, and therefore they're clueless. They don't get it. They're like Jesus speaking in parables because the people won't get it. Parables are a pattern. And because of the great and abominable church keeping the people stupid, the people do not see the patterns. They do not understand. They think everything is separated from each other, that there is no pattern connection. Not in words, not in story, not in symbolism. They do not catch on. So, okay. Should that be the thumbnail picture? Huh. I could do that. We'll think about that. We'll have to write it down. Thumbnail pic. I've already got the theme song in the description below. Kenny Rogers and the other woman. Is it? It's not Reba, is it? Drives me crazy. But Mary, did you know? All four. Okay. So, another repeated pattern you're supposed to catch on to from Joseph Smith. It's from the first vision. This is how we're going to lead into this. In verse 17, Joseph Smith, in verse 16, says he saw a pillar of light exactly over his head above the brightness of the sun. The brightest the sun gets is at noonday, thus the sun at noonday. Pattern. You're supposed to catch on to this. You're supposed to know that it's the sun god at noonday. In the learning of the Egyptians, language of the Jews, learning of the Egyptians, learning of the Egyptians, language of the Jews. Interchangeable. They were the same pre-Babylonian captivity. And so, he found himself delivered from the great and abominable church, which held him bound, which was Christianity. Patterns. Did you not catch this? He sees the true Jewish Christs, the Father and the Son, Amen, and he is instantly freed from the falsehoods of the non-patterns of the patterns of criminal behavior of the great and abominable church, of Christianity. That's what he's talking about. Which Christian church is true, or are they all wrong altogether? Yeah, they're all wrong. They're abominable. Verse 19. And this is why, after the creation of Christianity in 325 CE, the world was then called in that area the Dark Ages. Taking away light and truth, denying science, denying Socratic methodology of the Greeks, logic. And so he saw two personages standing above him in the air, like the sun god at noonday. One of them spake unto him, calling him by name, and said, pointing to the other, This is my son of Mary, hear him. Oh, you don't know Egyptian, so you didn't know that beloved is the translation from the Egyptian word Mary. Oh, okay. And so, yes, there's a reason why Mary is both mother and wife. And is the name of all the other women, so says SNL in their Easter skit this year. Just 6 more days. 6 more days. And it begins again for another season. 6 more days. Awesome. Okay. And so, those of you who've been following me, and this is not your first video of mine, of 8,000 videos on both channels, because YouTube keeps attacking me, trying to shut me down before conference, on purpose. They don't understand what they do, because they're down at the lower rungs, and that video got ruined. The one that explains the level of knowledge in this criminal organization, to see how brainwashed Mormons can be to put them into higher ranking of positions of trust in the criminal organization, so that prophets get chosen through this pattern rather than for righteousness, as Hinckley explained to the priesthood. As he put his son into the first quorum of 70. Oh, that was hilarious. His son gets put into the quorum of the 70, and then he gets up and has to justify nepotism in the church. Hilarious. And so, yeah, after his death, Monson and likewise Nelson wanted nothing more to do with the Hinckley bloodline for the apostleship. They had other enemy nations that they were trying to appeal to. And so Brazil, Germany, and China, and Saudi Arabia, but not Russia. Are you listening, Putin? Putin, if you're listening, I hope you can understand that the church is stabbing you in the back. Just saying. You're a puppet to them, and they stabbed you in the back. Just saying. For those of you Russian agents who are in the audience listening to my videos and stealing them rather than just asking me, I don't even know if they're still around. I assume they are, but you know. It's been since 2017, guys. You don't know because you're not following this long. I've been stalked by Russians, North Koreans, Chinese, Brazilians, all of these different enemy nations, even Saudi Arabia. As I once had a website that the church would go and destroy the day after I filed my lawsuit. Bad timing, church. You got exposed. Yeah, they were threatening me. They were making it very obvious they were threatening me. Don't do it, Travis. Don't do it. And they'd already fired a magistrate judge here in Utah and assigned her to my case as a reminder of the threat to her, why she got fired for allowing Gaddy versus COP. But enough of my problems. That's, extra stuff to believe in after the core belief that the church is false. Then you understand who I am, and then you want to learn more about me and how I fulfilled prophecy by repeating the patterns called fulfillment. So, yeah, Mary. And there are multiple scriptures about Mary and women as the repeated pattern that I've not, where is it? Buried down low, huh? I've got stuff to do. Of the rape of Rebecca. A repeating pattern in all of Scripture of the woman character in the story who's unable to have a child and then comes across Pharaoh, father Ammon to give birth to son Ammon, the Christ figure of the particular Jewish story. This is a pattern that's repeated numerous times. And so even Jesus speaking to the woman at the well who'd been married 8 times, and then all of a sudden she says, "I perceive thou art a prophet." No duh. But his girlfriend Mary, which the Pope said was the whore that Jesus excused whoredom for. No, he didn't. The woman was accused of being caught in the act of whoredom. But when Jesus said, okay, since you saw her in the act of having sex, go ahead, stone her according to the law. And then nobody did it because nobody saw her. They were purposely setting up Jesus to have him do it. And he told her, "I didn't see you have sex, so go on your way and sin no more." Yeah, he knows. Apparently she didn't get pregnant. So you also have to understand a cultural thing back in those days too, with the laws of Hammurabi, who established that if a woman is getting raped within the city walls, she is required to scream for help. If she fails to scream for help and she tries to claim that she was raped. Sorry, out of luck. You didn't scream for help. So if she screams for help within the city walls, the guy gets in trouble. So thus the story of Joseph, the wife accused him of raping her, and it was within the walls, and therefore Joseph goes to prison for the false accusation. So there's a weakness in the laws of Hammurabi. But nonetheless, that's the laws that he tried to establish to set some kind of precedent. So thus men, if they want to be safe from a woman who's going to falsely accuse him because she wants an eternal marriage with him, and so she's going to go to her bishop and say, he raped me, we have to get married now. And if the guy says, no, I didn't, and then, yeah, he gets in trouble and is forced with the punishment of rape, which gets tossed aside here in the state of Utah. Nobody cares about women getting raped. But the other avenue, which I was a victim of, is that you have to confess in order to marry her. It's a trap by Mormon women. A very evil trap. But nonetheless, the other law, or the other part of the law, is that if it's outside the city walls, it doesn't matter if the woman screams for help or not. She's outside the city walls all by herself getting raped, or not getting raped. It doesn't matter. And so the buddy system is required for leaving the city walls to protect women from raping. And thus, within city walls, obviously women can't be expected to have the buddy system all the time. So that's the way it was set up. And yes, I exposed the weakness of it, as Joseph, the author of Genesis, exposes that weakness in the laws of Hammurabi. So anyway, patterns on the corner of my mind. And so there's a woman that I told you about in a video last week. Was it earlier last week? I think so. Who YouTube recommended, and I checked her out. And she's a direct descendant of Brigham Young through one of his wives, and apparently she didn't know which wife. And so I commented and included the link to Brigham Young's list of wives for her so that she could figure it out. And she deleted my comment, as I found out last night. I was inspired. Check on her, see how she's doing. Because there was no notification from YouTube that she had responded to my comment. As she said, ask me questions. Okay. And she deleted my comment. What's the point of saying that you want us to ask you questions and then you delete our question? I saw other guys commenting to her. And as a guy, I know exactly what they're doing. And she's playing the clueless part, responding to them. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. She's been married, she has 3 kids, she's single, and still clueless about sex ed. It's just, women, stop it. This repeated pattern of yours is driving us men crazy. We're right here. Right here. Patterns, remember? I'm heavily involved in all forms of entertainment in our society. That's how I learned. Mom had Todd, and Todd had colic, and so she had to spend her whole day with him. And so in order to take care of me, I was sat in front of the TV, just like that old HBO show that was on during my mission time, where I was in Massapequa Park in the Pleasure Palace, or the Pleasure Dome, that had HBO. Didn't need to know about it. That's where he recognized patterns in his life and his interactions of social interaction at work and in social situations that patterned TV shows that he was sat in front of the TV by his mom to watch. So yes, patterns. And I've not been able to obtain that show on DVD to convert it into digital. But nonetheless, that could also be a picture of the theme song. Think about that. It's not porn, it's HBO. A hilarious video, despite the outward appearance of disturbing. See, the natural man does not want to share. But, there are exceptions. Anyway, so, yes, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I'm right here. She's clueless. She's thinking about herself and her needs and wants at the time, when he is catching on to a conspiracy by the great and abominable church to murder them, and she's clueless. Patterns. Dun 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 dun, which could be the theme song in the description below too, but we're using Mary, did you know? And so, she's the only Mormon that I am curious and listening to the full length of her videos. It's now been 4 that I've listened to all the way through of hers. She doesn't know this. She deleted my comment. And so I don't know why, whether she was offended with something I said in my comment, which I did my very best not to be offensive, tried to be respectful. Maybe she was offended because I called her sister. That's the title. I don't know. She's Mormon. She still thinks the church is true. Though in the first video that I watched of hers, she was trying to claim that Joseph Smith did not have sex with his plural wives. Then what was the purpose of plural marriage? Because the whole purpose of plural marriage is not to collect wives. It's to have children with them, to increase the population. And so religious cults embrace that for the sole purpose of increasing their numbers as fast as possible. Thus, Islam. They followed Muhammad's practice of polygamy to rape women as little girls as soon as they're ready to breed, for the sole purpose of rising up an army to take over the whole world with. Because they had to do it on October 7th, 2023. That was when they needed to strike. 2 billion worldwide, all in position, ready to go. And there they are. They did it. They're activated. Sleeper cells around the world were activated, as according to the pattern. And so, yeah, Mormons, I don't think, are fully understanding this. I've done the videos where I explain why Brigham Young blamed Joseph to justify him doing it. Not just during Joseph Smith's lifetime as a secret combination practice within the church, of which Joseph Smith, whenever he found somebody practicing polygamy, he excommunicated them. He had a whole section in the Doctrine and Covenants on no polygamy. Yes, monogamy. And in the Book of Mormon, 6 times, repeated pattern, no polygamy. And so 1838 comes, all of a sudden Joseph Smith flips a switch and becomes a completely different person according to accusations, not by the actual actions of Joseph Smith. So forged documents were created by Brigham Young's branch-off church, all claiming that Joseph Smith sure enough did, and they oopsied on the actual leadership of the band of Gadianton, the Nicolaitan band, the Danite band, in which section 117 condemns Noah K. Whitney for being a part of the Danites, and still says to come to Adamon-Diamond, which was the secret headquarters of the Danites, and be a bagman, bishop, in the criminal organization for the theft that they were going to loot from all of the surrounding cities. But that's what Thomas B. Marsh accused Joseph Smith of, because of the Danites telling him that Joseph Smith approves all of this. He's the leader of our Danite band. And yet, Brigham Young comes out the year before he dies with section 117, 40 years later, and says that Joseph Smith was not the leader of the Danites. In 1874, Brigham Young comes out and says Joseph was too stupid to come up with polygamy. That it was Brigham who came up with it for 1843, section 132. Another reason why that date was chosen when that scripture was finally written, and replacing section 101 of Joseph Smith. These are patterns of criminal practice that Exfo Nevermos never caught on to, and thus why they too need to listen to my warning voice, because here in this valley is the prime importance of the concern that is coming. There are Muslim centers. Do I still have that in this file, or did I transfer it? One of my apostles, oh, there it is. There it is. Dichotomous with a Grim Reaper and a Hawaiian t-shirt, or a Hawaiian shirt. Trinity, Jesus, non-Trinitarian, and Trinity Sunday, the crown, cross, and dove, and then a whole bunch of Islamic center locations in this valley. I had taken a direct picture from Google Maps of this, but this is more awesomer because it's all of the various names of the centers, which only I could only get the little red balloon from Google Maps. I'd have to, they don't allow for this. This was awesome. But yeah, they're all in key locations of utilities and infrastructure. That should concern people in the coming days. Church has paid the Judas price to Islam. You need to pay attention. They used your tithing money to do it. Pay attention. That's the whole reason for it. And it's not the LLC, Ensign Peak Advisors, money that they're spending. It's not the original 10% or the original funds that are used for expenditures. It's the excess funding that is laundered into offshore bank accounts that they use to pay the Judas price with. The patterns. Nelson came out with a response to the whistleblower and said, hey, we follow the pattern, parable of the talents, which purposely was misinterpreted. And this is another problem with Mormonism, that they misinterpret the patterns, misinterpret the meaning of scriptures, and then claim their misinterpretation is true, and then they live their lives based on that misinterpretation. And so there are many people that many of us know because they've been in the spotlight going to prison for their misinterpretations of scripture. So even though they are partially correct that this church is wrong and that therefore something else needs to replace them, they then believe that it's supposed to be them. That's level 6 in the video that got botched by the cyber terrorist attack. And so yeah, the church preys on Mormons with this misinformation, disinformation campaign to see who will believe it and see if they can be trusted as they rise up in rank. And family members and friends get the discount because they know them better than the regular Mormon, so they can trust them better in this secret combination. So Mary there's not much to this. The other stuff that I've already talked about, repeating patterns, that's what you're supposed to catch on for this video. Has nothing to do with Mary, really. I'm just throwing this in there as extra fluff piece stuff for you. Because it concerned me, because Mormons are not catching on to this pattern. The church does not teach sex ed, and this sabotages us. So if I get my comment deleted again, I'll leave her alone, even though she still keeps saying, ask me questions. But you don't want me to ask you questions. And I'm supposed to get the hint by your deleting my comment and not letting me know that you deleted my comment. I just don't get a notification from you. And so I have to check to see what's going on, and then I see these other guys that you responded to who are flattering, pacifying, and deceiving you so that they can get into your panties. And you're pretending to be clueless. And she's now calling these guys who are purposely stalking her for the purpose of getting into her panties. And she's clueless. Oh, you're so sweet, thank you. No guy wants me. I don't understand. That's what she's talking about in her latest video. The two guys that were commenting on this latest video about why she's single and insulting the guys from her childhood, saying they turned gay. And I've already done the video. I saw the Star Trek episode that triggered psychology to do this attack. This was psychology who caused this. Bill Maher did a whole new rules segment on this. That this whole LGBTQIAPO plus C, not C, because apparently Bill Maher is upset with everybody for saying that J.D. Vance has sex with his couch. I've warned LGBTQIAPO+ to stop it. The creation of the organization is separate but equal. They're all separate because they each have a letter for their identity. But they're equal because they're all part of the gang. Separate but equal was the Confederate racism after the Civil War, and laws were established in the South of separate but equal. Oh yeah, you conquered us in the Civil War? Well, we'll show you. We're going to make laws about how equal blacks are by making them separate but equal. Take that, Union forces. That's exactly what they were doing. They were giving the bird to the Union that won the war with the creation of those laws. And that same law was resurrected from the grave in Arizona this year by the Mormons in the legislature, by the way. Those same Mormons who were Confederates as well in southern Utah. Arizona, southern Utah, Confederates, converted to the church, came west after the Civil War. And nobody sees the patterns. Yes, this is why they call it the land of Dixie. Hello? Everybody wants to deny and lie to prove the church is true. Travis, you're misunderstanding the inverted pentagram of Lucifer on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. You're abusing us, Travis. And the judge in the case calls it an ad hominem attack on the church. The very filing that put Holland in the hospital, and we didn't find out for 2 weeks after. That bastard, he was supposed to recuse himself. You cannot be a Mormon as a judge on a trial or a case that involves the church. You have to recuse. And in the state of Utah, the church purposely rigs it so that you cannot sue the church in Utah. Pharaoh will always say no. And so, yeah, the Virgin Mary, single mother of 3, direct descendant of Brigham Young, which is hilarious. Her name is Mary. She's a descendant of Brigham Young, who turned Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon Christian. Now it's a virgin birth because Heavenly Father came from outer space and raped his 14-year-old daughter. Because we've turned the Book of Mormon into literal history now. And yes, exfo never mows. That's why the Book of Mormon seems racist to you, because you've allowed the church to fool you into thinking it's literal history. And therefore a racist document. No. Symbol patterns. It's the white supremacists of Brigham Young who turn black. They hate that. They kill themselves when they find out they've got black blood in them. They are so extremist in their racist hatred that it's hilarious to call them black. You want to instantly die? Call a white supremacist black. He'll instantly murder you. That's how racist they are. And it would be telling them the truth, because their ancestors, who were plantation owners, raped the black slave daughters. Just like my case. people look at me, they see a white guy. They don't see the clues of my black ancestry. The genes, because I'm too white from the other branch offs that are white. So yeah, I've got Somali, pre-white Somali DNA in me. My DNA company notified me of that, and I did the video, and that was getting thousands upon thousands of views, because there's a lot of Somalis out there who use YouTube. All of my brothers and sisters came to comment, "Welcome! You're most likely from the whites who came to Somalia." When we were slaves, I doubt you're... What do you mean slaves? No, Somalis were never enslaved to anybody. There's fights going on between them. Come on, guys. Anyway. Mary. The video's over, pretty much. If you want to hear about how Mary is looking for the right guy and she can't find him, they're all turning gay because of psychology during the 90s. This is what happened. And I see that in her. She was a teenager during the 90s when psychologists struck American schools, telling the kids that they are this identity. And that's how it got started. No longer is it just gays and lesbians in the closet. Psychologists targeting the school systems. And there's still the video on YouTube of the mother 6 months ago who's deeply upset that her school transitioned her kid without her knowledge and without her consent. She is pissed, and I don't blame her. Because instead of teaching Jesus creationism rather than false evolutionary science, have they ever tested it? No. Somebody made the claim, never bothered to test it, and now we all believe it, as the space shows all claim evolutionary theory is true, the theory of evolution. Even evolutionary theory, it's all wrong. There is no such thing. Seed, egg, baby. That's it. All humans are in the image of the DNA pattern in the seed. There is no mutations that create subhumans or non-humans into some other species. Chimpanzees only produce chimpanzees. There is no evolutionary mutation that creates another species. We don't come from lizards. Lizards are lizards. They only produce lizards, etc., etc. This has been an established factual pattern in science forever. And yet all of a sudden Darwin comes along and makes the accusation, doesn't do any research, doesn't actually run tests. He just makes the claim, and everybody believes him, and is making the change, and thus is panicking Christians because they believe the Bible to be literal history true. And so they then fought back by pushing to have creationism forced upon everybody in the school system. And so you've got two lies arguing for supremacy in our public school system. And so psychologists come along and decide to screw that up even further by telling parents as kids in the school systems who come to them with behavioral problems, "Oh, yeah, you think maybe you might be gay?" No, no. But you keep talking about bleeping the other kid up the bleep. Are you sure? Oh no, I'm gay. I don't want to be gay. And so psychologists don't teach sex ed. The school systems, especially here in Utah, don't teach sex ed. Our parents won't teach sex ed. Our government won't require the teaching of sex ed. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints doesn't teach sex ed. And this sabotages kids. I've seen it. I'm a victim of it. And so nobody knows how their own body functions, let alone the other sex. And so psychologists preyed upon that weakness so that they can get cash cows to support their lifestyle. As a psychologist, psychologists cannot exist unless there's a problem in human behavior. So they create problems to elicit clients for themselves. That's what I've been warning you about with psychology. I saw it with the commercials in the 80s. They came out with commercials first that said, if your child exhibits these symptoms, you mean outward appearances? The symptoms are not causation. And so symptoms can have numerous causes. There's no one cause for an outward symptom of human behavior. That's why you cannot categorize scientifically human behavior. You've got to find a causal problem that is physical, and thus medical doctors. There is no need for psychologists. Psychologists are fraudulent. Psychologists are criminal. Psychologists are overthrowing our government by causing a false dichotomy. And in this particular case, utilizing non-dichotomous fallacies to justify the warring against each other. And so you can see how Christianity gets triggered by psychologists telling kids that they are something other than our biological nature. Seed, egg, baby. That's it. That's all. You can't have seed, seed, baby. You can't have egg, egg, baby. You can't have mutant, mutant, baby. It doesn't happen. And nobody's producing the results to prove that it happens, because you can't. You gotta run the test. And if the test comes up negative, you gotta dismiss the claim. There's been a false tests over and over again for the theory of evolution and evolutionary theory. It's gotta be dismissed, and it's not. Just like Paleo-Hebrew. The current William Foxwell Albright claim is false. It must be dismissed. And it won't be. But people around the world are finding out from me about the real Paleo-Hebrew translation. And so I don't know how well I'm doing in convincing people that William Foxwell Albright is a dumbass who wasted his life milking the university to live a lifestyle. But at least I got the truth out there. Whether people listen to me or not, that's up to them. I can't force your agency, Mormons and ex-foes and nevermos who want to be adopted in. It's up to you. So anyway, yeah, this is what Mary does not understand, is that all these guys turning gay were not turning gay. They were being brainwashed by the psychologists. And so if people want to have sex with whoever, whether it's a couch or a blender, it doesn't matter. People need to be free to live the life they want to live. The 14th Amendment, Section 1, says all citizens who are born are to be given equal status under the law for life, liberty, and property. And even in Joseph Smith's church, there are 3 kingdoms of glory, not a heaven and a hell. Obey us or die. But that's what you're seeing this church do with the religious freedom movement. They're overthrowing the government and enforcing religious freedom so that the church can tell other people who don't want to be Mormon what to do and how to be and how to live. You've seen this in the laws of Utah. The church dominates and demands that the legislature have Jesus' laws for Utah. So you get the Zion Curtain, for example. You get raping of 14-year-old girls and the similitude of Mother Mary of Jesus because of this abomination. And there are those who are not Mormon or leave the church who want nothing to do with the for strength of youth beliefs of this church. And yet the church is forcing the government to force others to be Mormon. This is the danger, and people are not understanding the seriousness of this danger. And so that does have to do with the whole thing. This is what's being set up for. And so everybody here in Utah knows this, that the church actively tampers with the government laws. And you're not getting it. The church wants you in bondage. They do not want to let you go. They want you punished if you leave. And then they claim distance, plausible deniability, that your punishment was caused by them, so that you then go, oh, wow, yeah, I should have listened to the living prophet of Jesus who warned me that if I left the church, I'd turn into a horrible human being, drinking Mountain Dew and having orgy sex and getting STDs and murdering people. And then you go, oh, I guess the church is true. And you go back to church, and then you get up at the pulpit of the Rameumptom of church, and you bear your testimony about how the church is true because you were a whore when you left the church. Who murdered her husband. Who tortured her kids on YouTube. Who was a psychologist. Who raped your clients. Who were abusing your clients, and your whole treatment center got shut down, and then one of the kids is complaining about the abuse that you caused on him, and he's suing you now. Yeah, psychology is getting exposed here in Utah. And then the church news tried to sneak in an article hoping that I wouldn't cover it, or did they? They were mocking me, most likely, because they're now taking psychology that is being exposed as criminal abuse in the state of Utah to the world, third world countries, family services, helping to destroy other nations in third world countries. As I've already been covering the videos, all these coups going around in other governments, yeah, the church was there first, and then a coup occurs. Interesting. Dear God. And so, yeah, Mormons who go and get involved in these coups around the world are getting the death penalty. Gotta pay attention, guys. This church is evil. And they are using you for their purposes. There are Mormons who say, I'm willing to sacrifice my life for this church. Oh, dear God. You don't see how you're the evil one, huh? And so, no, there is no such thing. It is a sexual fetish, which in the 90s got changed in word to type. I never understood that when I was single again and in the younger singles ward and attending institute with the younger singles in Riverton. Because they were all talking type, and I didn't understand. What do you mean type? I'm male, she's female. Do I have to be female for me to be your type? Because I'm from the Paula Abdul opposites attract, and guys didn't really care for Paula Abdul because she didn't let it be known that she's female. She wanted people to love her for her talents and skills, her brain. Whereas other women become popular because they let their audience know she's female. There's a reason. You first have to attract a man, then he wants to be interested in you. That's how you keep him. And then he gets to learn about what goes on inside that head of yours. And if he still doesn't run away screaming, you've got a committed man. So don't ruin it by trying to take away his agency, claiming that you just want him to reach his potential. Or ensnare him with marriage. Now that I've got you, I'm changing to who I really am. Now the husband is whipped, as he no longer gets sex. But women don't understand and abuse men because of that. Church weaponizes women against men and men against women. And the church stands back and says, family proclamation, we're innocent. You're the naughty ones. God. So yeah, it is interesting to hear what goes on inside of her head. She, at the end of her videos, will do blooper reels. That is hilariously unique. Good for you. She got that from movies, obviously, but she's doing it for her YouTube videos. Very clever. But only those who endure to the end, listening to her, can find out about those. But she said she's looking for the right guy. There is no such thing as the right guy at the beginning. There's no way any of us can find the right girl or the right guy in the beginning. Yes, we see a person, and through our cultural environment and experiences as a child growing up, there are certain men or women that catch our attention. And thus, we, having bonded with those types in the beginning, have an internal censor to repeat that experience and from our younger years. And we don't know it unless we're actually understanding it in ourselves. And so for me, I've been telling you about redheads. There's a reason why redheads get my attention first. And that's because of my experiences as a child growing up. And so Charlie Brown, yeah, a little redheaded girl. And other redheads that watching TV and movies were enjoyable for me, and thus the redheaded woman character caught my attention. But my experience with Beth in kindergarten caused me to also bond with brunettes. And so for the longest time, blondes were of no interest to me because of the bonding I had with redheads and brunettes. Until Kimberly And because of the good experience with Kimberly, dating her, all of a sudden blondes appeared in my life. There's a blonde. She reminds me of Kimberly. Patterns. So I began to appreciate blondes from that point on. And so yes, I have come to learn that getting to know a person, communicating, learning to understand each other's communication, enhances relationships. Thus why the church's video about the Mormon man who's having trouble in his marriage, not like the women at the office understand me, and before you know it, the women at the office start looking better and better, and your family starts looking worse and worse, and before you know it, boom, you've lost everything. You had orgy sex with all the women in your office. I first heard that on my mission. I had to buy Miyazaki's cassette player from him as he was going home from his mission. I was killing him off. As I was still a greenie, he was my second missionary companion. I sent Elder Gale home from his mission after the first month of me being out there. And I had these cassette tapes, the one from the missionary study guide that had a cassette tape with it. They were supposed to use with the study guide, and I couldn't because I didn't have a cassette player because it wasn't on the list of things to bring. And along with towels. And so he sold it to me, and whether it was $10 or $20, I don't know, I don't care. I was finally able to get it. And so then I was able to go and buy Barry Manilow's new album, or cassette tape that came out. Just Barry Manilow, there in '89. It came out in May that year, which I could put those songs and themes on the description below as well. And so I was able to listen to Together Forever. And I'm going, he cheated on his wife with every woman in the office? But that's why. You know, we have too many options with our higher population that we're unwilling to invest in a relationship, to get to know the other person, to understand each other with our communication, to understand our sexual natures, to understand why the other person acts the way they do once they hit puberty. My mom rejected me as her son once I hit puberty because the church told her that I'm supposed to be able to turn it off, that it's evil, and that I'm supposed to sing hymns and pray and read scriptures and go to the temple as a kid to turn it off, to ignore it and hope it goes away. And it doesn't. And so the church purposely sabotages us to feel guilty about what is natural in order to reproduce the human race. Patterns. And so psychologists preyed on that to create all these other things. And people are brainwashed. And lives are being destroyed, and Christian nationalist supremacists are being used as the weapons against LGBTQIAPO+, indoctrinated by the fraud of psychology to reinforce their identity, and thus have now been given protections exclusive to them, unequal to the rest of people in society, despite the 14th Amendment, Section 1, which already gave them protections. They got the government to create extra laws above and beyond the 14th Amendment, Section 1, and thus destroying it. And so Mary does not understand this. That's what was going on in her life. She's thinking that it's the guys who are turning gay. You don't turn gay. You may have a sexual fetish for other guys because you grow up bonding with other guys, playing with G.I. Joe dolls, action figures. And so, yeah, you bond with those guys, and then you grow up and you think, I must be gay because I did gay stuff as a kid. No, you didn't. There's no such thing. That was the bullies who were threatening you to get you to be gay, so that then when you claim to be gay, then they can escalate the bullying abuse on you. And that's exactly what psychologists did, use the bullying pattern to cause this, for the sole purpose of pitting religion against fake science, fraudulent science of psychology. And so, yeah, this is why it's still being used as a weapon in our nation to this day. But what I hope Mary at least reads and doesn't get offended and immediately deletes my comment, and she hasn't banned me from her channel, but nonetheless, is that the Book of Mormon precepts teach us about patterns. Wilford Woodruff's journal that got put in as the words of Joseph Smith in our Book of Mormon introduction is that Joseph Smith is claimed to have said, the Book of Mormon is the most correct book on the face of the earth, and that a man will draw nearer to God by abiding by its precepts. And so Exfil Nevermos ignore that last part and focus on, yeah, the Book of Mormon is the most correct plagiarized book. You're missing what it was said. It's the precepts produce the results of the precepts, liken the word unto a seed, and produce the fruits of the word, the results. And so I told her to trust the Book of Mormon. See, she's a Mormon. She should not be offended. She should not delete my comment. She should be going, oh, thank you, that's so sweet. I still don't understand why guys don't like me. Of course they like you. But there's a difference. Obviously, guys only want you initially for your body. It's when they can trust you that then they'll listen to your mind. And as long as you don't blow it by taking away the man's agency, they'll be loyal to you forever. But once you start taking away their agency, then they go, she's changed. She's not the same person who lured me in with her feminine wiles. And then the relationship is over and the seed is destroyed. She has burned it and stuffed it in a blender and frappéed it on high. All because she wanted potential. So yes, a lot of these problems can be eliminated with correct education. And AI is coming out now. Oh dear God, we're all doomed. I've warned you. The people who know about AI programming warned you, and nobody's listening. The government's not stopping it. It's in everything in our society, and everybody's trying to force us to use it. God. And it's right before the election of all elections, on purpose. So yeah, you know you've gotten the right guy when you produce the results of the relationship. And the Book of Mormon warns you. Just like for the Christ and for the prophets, you're supposed to put them to the test. But Mormons want the quick and easy way out. The prophets have to be true instantly. You don't want to invest your study and research to find out if their words are actually true or if they're lying to you and stealing your money and trying to hurt you, claiming that it's Jesus that's doing it. So Alma, chapter 32, starting in verse 28. We will compare the word unto a seed. If you will give place that a seed may be planted in your heart. Word. You have to believe it, not cast it out by your unbelief, not delete his comment with your unbelief. That you will resist the Spirit of the Lord. And so it's specifically talking about scriptures, but wisdom of the world likewise. You can know that it's false by producing the results of it. So the video I did yesterday about Trump's economic policy of mass deportation. It will result in cannibalization. America will descend into cannibals with Trump's simple mass deportation economy plan from the Project 2025, written and inspired by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They purposely want to turn Americans into cannibals so that the church can then say, see, we cannot give you your agency. You can't be trusted. You became cannibals. And so we're going to take away your agency for your own good, because you have potential as a child of God, non-Trinitarian, so that you can be saved. It's all a trap, guys. And bullies have been doing this forever, and then I find out that the church is doing it, and I'm just pissed. And so, yeah, you don't know whether the word is true until you produce the fruit. Spiritual witness feeling is right there in the beginning. It enlarges your soul, enlightens your understanding, and it beginneth to be delicious. No, that's the fruit. But nonetheless, this was Oliver Cowdery's contribution to the Book of Mormon. And so, behold, are you sure that this is a good seed? I say unto you, yeah, it's sprouted. It's obviously good, it's growing. And so every seed bringeth forth unto its own likeness. You're not going to create a mutant word. So if you plant an apple seed, you're gonna get apples. You're not gonna get oranges. You're not gonna get some mutation into a chimpanzee. Apple seeds produce apples. Only if you go in and alter the DNA will it then produce the other alteration, because you altered the DNA. And this is the vegetation theory. It's an established law of nature. And Darwin was an ass. But yeah, it was a direct assault on Christianity to mock them and to cause them to be triggered. And you can't fight fire with fire when it's human behavior, which excellent Metallica song, but fight fire with fire. From Garage Days, isn't it? Isn't that a Garage Days song from that album? Can't remember, but that's what I'm thinking at first instance. And so, yeah, this is for relationships too. You see a woman in my case, and she looks very desirable, but I don't know if she's the one. I only know that I want to breed with her. That's as far as it goes. And so I have to get to know her. Find out what she likes. Find out how she thinks. How she understands this same similar concept of pattern. Turning the word into the results. So, yeah, I hear Mary, and she is screwed up by this church. I can hear it. I know that certain words are false from this church. And I can hear her using those in her life. That she is not understanding that they're false. She knows they're false because she's confused as to why it's not working out. But because she believes the church is true, that is causing a stumbling block for this process. So, yeah. And then over time, as you become one with each other, knowing what the other person wants, knowing what the other person likes, and when you unite with another person, you yourself change what you do, what you like, because it's a shared interest now. If you go into a relationship and you want to be separate but equal, your relationship is doomed. And this is how marriages fall apart. Because in the beginning, it's all about being with them 24/7, doing everything together. And then in the marriage, all of a sudden, you start drifting apart. Baby emerges from the womb, and the baby takes up mommy's time. And the women at the office start looking better and better as they're seeing the baby pictures, and the girls are at the office are going, "Oh, I want a baby." And then you talk about how frustrating it is, and you're sharing your spiritual witness feelings with the coworkers, and they feel your spirit. And you drift apart in a relationship. And the unrealistic expectations in dating sabotage marriage. Because dating is all about putting on a front of what you think is your best self. You're putting on a costume. You're lying to the other person about who you really are because you think that they're not going to like you. And so you have to pretend to be somebody else for them to like you. And then once you get married, then you reveal who you really are, of which you don't even like yourself. You sabotage relationships this way. You know, you end up going on to expensive dating to try to impress the girl, to show that you have money that can take care of her and her needs and wants. And then you trick her into marrying you, and then all of a sudden she finds out that you aren't as rich as she wanted you to be. But you don't want to marry that kind of woman. And so, yeah, everybody wants to go in with the perfect relationship and not have to actually work on it. To actually listen to the other person, to understand where they're coming from, applying this to say, oh, no, sorry, that's Lucifer's plan of happiness. If you cannot recognize that and do away with Lucifer's plan of happiness, I am not going to get suckered into a marriage with you, because you are going to abuse me in our marriage and will destroy our marriage. So good luck finding some other sucker and loser. And that's when you move on. But nobody sees things in this Book of Mormon precept manner. They all have fantasy delusions from Hollywood and TV shows by scripts of an individual who has those fantasies, a failed life themselves. So we're already at an hour and a half. But yeah, patterns, guys. I know results from words, and thus Mary doesn't. And trying to help her by pointing out the Book of Mormon for her. You know, obviously she's not interested. She thinks I'm going to turn gay. And she's a descendant of Brigham Young, and she has the curse of Brigham Young DNA in her. It's not the first wife curse of MS. It's one of the other wives' curses. And it's sad because she doesn't understand it. But yeah, when her medical doctor told her, it crushed her. But she was able to finally get 3 children out of it. But medical hospital bills galore because of it. But the curse of Brigham Young upon his descendants for polygamy. Naughty, 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 naughty. So yeah, each polygamous wife of Brigham causes a different pre-existing condition from patterns. So yeah, we left that one for last. Save the best for last.